Good morning and welcome back to day 21 of Believing That I'm a Millionaire Before My Bank Account Says So. All right, so we all know that identity isn't what you think about yourself, it's what you consistently do, right? This week, we worked on embodying your millionaire identity in completely new ways. We clarified that acting as if isn't about spending like a millionaire, it's about making identity decisions that cost nothing but shift everything. We discovered your unique human design blueprint for how money flows most easily to you specifically. And we learned Kiyosaki's decision matrix, the difference between asset thinking and liability thinking in every choice that you make. And to clarify, because someone said this in one of the comments this week, what I consider an asset and what you consider an asset may be different. What brings you joy can be an asset to your life. It's not just investment properties that are assets, right? This is your life, so you get to write the rules. We did deep shadow work with integrating parts of wealthy people that you've been judging so that you can stop sabotaging your own success. We also explored your wealth temperature, right? How the wealthy stay calm and regulated around any dollar amount so that when you hold the gold coins, you're just as regulated as when you hold the copper coins. And we learned about feminine money flow, how to magnetize wealth through inspiration rather than forcing it through desperation. But here's what ties it all together: your identity. So identity isn't what you think about yourself, it's what you consistently do. And every time you make a decision from your human design, instead of forcing the wrong strategy, you strengthen your wealthy identity. And every time you run the asset test, instead of making scarcity decisions, you embody your wealth consciousness. And every time you integrate your prosperity shadow, instead of judging wealth, you become worthy of receiving it. And every time you regulate your wealth temperature, instead of getting activated by money, you expand your capacity. And every time you move from feminine flow instead of unhealthy masculine force, you become magnetic to opportunities. So your millionaire identity is being created moment by moment through these choices. And here's what neuroscience tells us about identity formation that most people miss. Joe Dispenza's research says it takes about 21 days to wire a new neural pathway, but only one inconsistent action to reinforce the old identity. So think of your identity like a garden. Every aligned action is like watering the wealthy identity seeds. Okay, big, beautiful sunflowers or hydrangeas or whatever your favorite flower is are being watered and growing under the surface every time, and then eventually they pop through. But every old pattern action is like watering these scarcity weeds, and those suckers grow fast and they will infiltrate your garden. Most people sabotage themselves by watering both gardens inconsistently. Carl Jung discovered that we have multiple identities living within us. He calls them complexes. So right now you have both a wealthy identity and a broke identity operating in your psyche. So the question is, which one are you feeding with your daily choices? Every decision you make is a vote for who you're becoming. Your brain does not care about your intentions. It only tracks your actions. This is why identity work isn't about just positive thinking. It's about consistent behavioral change that literally rewires your neural networks. So your millionaire identity is being created moment by moment through these choices. Here's today's action step. This is your identity scorecard practice, okay? So you're gonna create two columns on a piece of paper, the wealthy identity and the broke identity. And for the next 7 days, I want you to track every financial decision as a vote. So, examples. Your wealthy identity votes. These might look like, I invested in a course instead of just scrolling. I raised my prices even though I felt scared. I said no to undervaluing work. I hired help instead of doing everything myself. Broke identity votes might look like, I took on this work because I was desperate, or I avoided looking at my finances, or I made decisions from fear instead of strategy. I compared my prices to others and then I lowered them. And at the end of each day, count your votes. You might be shocked at how clearly this shows which identity you're actually watering and growing and reinforcing, right? So end each day with more wealth identity votes than broke identity votes, and you win. This isn't about perfection. It's about conscious awareness of which identity you're feeding. And then we'll see you tomorrow for day 22.